lovely YouTubers, and welcome back to another video. Here we have two sketchbooks from last quarter that I was using for my intro to illustration in anatomy and perspective. I originally was working out of this sketchbook first for both of them, but I realized I needed a bigger sketchbook for anatomy and perspective, so that's this bad boy here. So the first couple of pages are going to be from the sketchbook that I literally tore out and put it in here so that they're all in the same place. I want to go ahead and apologize now if I say anything and you cannot understand it. That's because my voice is going. So yes, it does sound a little weird, and I'll probably crack and break here and there. So if there's something that I did say that you didn't quite understand, go ahead and leave them down in the comments below asking me, and I will go ahead and type it out the best I can. But my voice is going in and out. It's a lot better than it was the llast couple of days. So I've been trying to wait until it was at least coherently understandable so that you guys can hear the voiceover. So without any more further ados, this is the sketchbook that I use for intro. Has all the information there. I don't think I have to go over it. Pause it. There you go. Bam. So with that said, I'm trying to go fast because I've started recording this like 4 or 5 times, and the animals or this or that, the lighting, it's, oh man, it was just going mad for me. I was half tempted to say, screw it, today's not the day, but I really want to get this out and done for you guys on time for Sunday. So the first assignment we had to do a 2-point perspective room interior that had to do with nautical. So the theme was voted in the group. We spat out a bunch of different themes, and eventually nautical won. Unfortunately, I really wanted space, but whatever. So you'll see me trying to incorporate some of that here in my thumbnails. I don't do room interiors. Like, this was one of like the first, maybe second time ever me trying to do it, let alone doing it in correct perspective, because that's what we needed to do. So 15 thumbnails we had to do, and some of them are just shapes because I couldn't even think of an interior room, let alone an aquatic interior room. So I was having a hard time with this first assignment. They did have like a tank with fishes and then like a place to sit and eat. This was going to be kind of like where they did plants and growing and stuff like that, and then another one for growing plants and things and such. A bunch of just space rooms. This was like a stair ladder. I actually got the example off of Google for 2-point perspective rooms because I really, guys, I was having a total brain fart. So like I saw the staircase going like that with beds and stuff, and I was like, all right, well, I'll use that interior room and decorate it the way I want it. At least I know it's kind of right. So the other thumbnails, give me a second to flip this guys for you. For these, and again, I was using that smaller sketchbook. Some basic shapes. Here was a corridor door of fishes and stuff, and then, you know, I did finally do like, oh, well, what if there's like a room underwater with a captain's chair? And I just wasn't feeling it. I was having a really rough time. You know, when you do something out of your comfort zone, it's going to be really hard, and it's not going to be as good as you want, and not the quality that you're used to with other stuff. So to be able to just say, okay, it's not the best and move on is a hard thing for me to do sometimes. And then here I had just a Plano greenhouse that was going to be underwater for a sea witch. Then we had to do some roughs. So this was the corridor door with a fish, and I was going to put some plants sitting up here, but I wasn't feeling it. I did have the staircase, very basic, not in fill-in staircase. This was still trying to get that corridor right, and then finally I skipped the arch. I think the arch was really throwing me off. I did a straight wall, and this still wasn't the same perspective as this because it was supposed to be getting smaller, and it just looked really awkward to me. I wasn't feeling it, and it was supposed to have a bunch of plants. So this is going to be randomly inserted somewhere in the video for my intro to perspective and anatomy video. These were some of the roughs I was talking about that I ended up doing that apparently I didn't have in the right sketchbook. I put it back in this one for the first assignment, 2D design, and then you can see that I have the rough under there, and these are just to help me find my perspectives, point of perspective. So yeah, these guys were supposed to be in there. My bad. All over it. So we ended up going with the staircase. Surprise, surprise, not really. Seeing that I knew the perspective was correct. More so from using the example. And so this was like the rough, a little bit tighter from the smaller rough. So yeah, I was adding in all the details, putting what I would think. Now the we couldn't shade this or anything. We had to show depth by line weight. So this was my attempt of inking it, which I don't tend to, I don't tend to ink per se. And if I do, it's like after a watercolor and stuff like that. So there was a bit of issues, and if I remember correctly, I will try to insert the finished product here, what I finally turned in, and you can see that there's quite a bit of differences from that. So moving along, then in class assignment, we were supposed to make weird shapes and make them feel like they overlap and stuff and things and all that jazz. Then we had to do some gesture drawings, which, let me see if I can darken this up for you guys, so you can see it a little bit better, or lighten it. There, I think that's a little bit better. So yeah, really quick stick gesture drawings on front and back of the paper, which you can barely see, so we're just gonna go ahead and see. I don't know how good you guys can see it. This one's a little bit darker and better, so you can see just some gesture drawings, which I did a lot previous quarter, so I was feeling a little more confident on our class assignments when we had to do that. And then we had a model come in, and we were drawing from the model and drawing. Here we go, darker lines. Yay! If I could fix this in editing to see better, I will do my best to do so. So with that, we then had to draw some 60 characters, just the wireframe of them, of how he wants. And again, I noticed like I got out of the habit of keeping the rib cage and the hip too far apart. I need to get them closer together. I was having that issue of making my characters too elongated in the midsection. And then that would make everything else too long as well. So I had to be careful with that. I was noticing that was happening, and I was getting pointed out about all that jazz. So yeah, I'm going to just go ahead and go a little fast. So again, there is a pause button. So if you want to see a page a little bit longer than you know that I'm going for, then by all means use that pause button. So those were my 60s, and then we had to draw just the frame before class, and then come in and draw the anatomy without looking at the reference. So understanding anatomy, and we had to do both, I think like 6 boys and 6 girls. So we could do the anatomy and tell the difference between them. So each class we would do like a big part of, like, you know, the top and the biceps and all that other fun jazz. I mean, the triceps and all that jazz would be one class of the arms. Another class was the legs. Another class was the midsection. So I ended up using a different color for each section just so I could see it better, because a lot of the stuff was getting lost. So I was like, okay, this is what goes here, and that what goes under that, and so forth, and yada, yada, yada. And apparently I don't know my muscles, because I'm telling you muscles for the pecs of the arms. So don't listen to me. I think I'm getting sick, and I'm a little loopy. Just look it up. But yeah, so understanding, we didn't do really the feet or the hands, so that's why you don't see them drawn in. It was more the basic muscle structures and who overlays what at these guys. So yeah, all of these were just stick figures, and then we had to figure out how to add the muscles in afterwards. And like, again, a lot of these, the rib cage and this would be too far apart, and so it looked a little wonky. And I never knew why my stuff looked a little wonky, but that's why. So yep, these were my drawings of these guys. Everybody really liked that I used different colors, because you could see, I mean, it was great because I can see what was right and what was wrong. But then you can see what was wrong really easy, where you can like feather out the line work to the other one and be like, oh yeah, it's something like that. These were critiques that the class would give you walking around. You would leave the sheet there, and then everybody walked around and wrote a small critique, which I prefer to just say it. Honestly, I'm not a writer. If I was, I'd be writing stuff instead of drawing it. So I think verbally I speak a lot better. That's probably why in the info section I was like a very minimum, because I'm like, meh, just watch the video and you know what it's about. So then we went into faces and drawing faces correctly and the proportions and stuff like that. And it was a good help understanding how to draw faces, especially for male faces, because I've never been the best on male faces, because honestly I draw mostly female faces, and the reason why I draw mostly female faces is because I have myself as an example, and I am a female. Therefore, if I have any questions of the angle of your look or this or that, I could go ahead and quickly look in the mirror, take a picture, and draw it. I don't have a 24/7 model, male model poor face. Unfortunately, that would be nice, but to draw. So yeah, the reason why I draw mostly females is because I have myself as an example to draw. And I leave you on the most boring page to talk about it. But anyways, so we had to do so many of just using the diagram. He shows us the proportions. And then after that, we were able to go hog wild on, you know, what kind of drawings we want to do and play with proportions and make things look really goofy and silly. I'm going to go ahead and go this way first and then turn it around and show you the rest. I really love him. It makes me feel like he's somebody you would see in a fantasy game, you know, going to fix your armor and stuff. I really love how the way he came up in his chops, man. His chops are awesome. Trying to draw something a little weird and creepy on the bottom. And then we have some, again, mostly females, because yes, that's how I draw, mostly females, because that's what I know. And then here we're going into some of the, using the proportion as far as angles and stuff like that he's showing us. Let me go ahead and flip it so you guys can see the other side of these guys. So, yeah. That's why these are a lot less detailed. They're just to show, yeah, I followed your directions on, you know, marking on how to do proportions and stuff like that. So, but here we're supposed to, like, play with the nose, how big the chin, and different angles, you know. So all that fun jazz. It was cool. She has a cool expression, too. Like a, huh? I was trying to draw more guys, too. I think we had to draw so many guys and so many girls. So that's probably why. Which I like that, because, you know, honestly, I would not push myself to get out of that for, to push more guys. And now I'm having a lot more fun drawing guys, so that was cool. Then we went into drawing hands and using examples of, this is my notes. Yeah, again, I'd rather draw my notes than write my notes. I understand it better. Oh, and we were supposed to do one celebrity and for my face, and I forgot. So that in class, I drew her real quick, and she's from The Walking Dead. If you do not know, she was one of my favorite characters, but my favorite character passed away. And since I don't want to do any spoilers, if you're behind the series or not, I won't say. But yeah, Mushan. I don't want to butcher her name in the show, but she's one of my faves. So then our next assignment was to do a character, since we've been drawing bodies and stuff. So we had to draw a myth, or he first said a Roman myth or a Roman mythology, and then he opened up to just fairy tales and stuff in general. So I already got Roman mythology in my head, and then I was trying to do Hermes and Artemis, and then the three sisters, and then Dionysus, and I was really all over the place. I was like, oh, I'm gonna draw a mermaid, and so, you know, yeah. My thumbnails are all over the place and everywhere. So here are some more thumbnails. And then I wanted to do Medusa. I had a few ideas for Medusa, another Artemis, but then she's like half deer, half the hunter instead of the deer. Because she's usually portrayed with the deer or with the wolf, which I don't understand why she's with the deer, like her familiar, because she goes hunting. I understood the wolf more, but it was fun to draw the deer. There's more sisters. There's supposed to be like 3 there in a cave, and yeah, messy. The messy thumbnails. As long as you understand the thumbnails, I think it was fine. Then you had to do 3 roughs. So I did Medusa bored in her cave, because, I mean, what's a girl to do for centuries just sitting there waiting for, you know, somebody to come kill her? But sit and wait. So she's like, there's her, like, you know, temple in the background in the cave that you go in, and she's just sitting on the edge, taking in some vitamin D right on the outside. I don't know. It wasn't never something you would see of Medusa. It's always a lot of action stuff. So then I did Artemis, and I did her with the deer in the forest. You know, pretty generic. I actually wish I ended up doing one of the Medusas instead of Artemis, but meh, such is life. Oh, and I drew a few more thumbnails of Artemis there and chilling with her wolf instead of the deer. And then I had Medusa, and then here's where I can't remember his name, but he lifts up the shield to show her own reflection. So she's in mid-process of turning into stone, and then the temples and all that jazz. And I'm kind of regretting not doing this one, but I was totally intimidated by the perspective. I'm not gonna lie. I did something very simple, dead on, because I wanted to get an A. I didn't want to challenge myself and then get a B or a C. I wanted to get an A because I honestly need A's to have for school, so that I can continue to afford school, so that I can continue my scholarship. So sometimes I may want to do the more artistic thing, but I go the safe route because you know, if I want to keep going to school, I unfortunately can't experiment. And I think that's like a detrimental to a lot of school stuff, because I think a lot of kids would probably do a lot more crazier stuff, but they go the safe route because you need an A. It's kind of like games where they make the same game over and over again because they know it sells, but they don't know the new and improved stuff may or may not. Anyway, that's a whole other tangent. So then we had to do shade studies. This was going to be a black and white, and I think I have this guy's recorded up there. If not, I'll show you guys the finished piece at the end of all this fun stuff. So we had to do some thumbnails of gradients and how we would do the lighting and so forth. And he told me to mix a few of like the solids with the gradients, because of these I went too crazy with gradients. But it's like, I was going to do this in watercolor because it just had to be in black and white. He didn't care what medium. And I don't know how to do watercolor in Photoshop. I don't know how to make it look like watercolor. And I don't think it's there yet anyways to begin with. So, yeah, it was just like gradients. That's something like that. So this is my rough sketch. And then, no, I'm sorry. This was my rough sketch. This one here. And then this was my tight sketch. I was like, this is pretty clean for a rough sketch. So I ended up doing that, and then I went and traced it, and here, let me grab it real quick. And this was it colored in watercolor and gouache. I used watercolor and gouache because gouache was with the white, some of the white, but the grayscale rest of it was in watercolor. And this was 140-pound paper, and I literally took this, cleaned it up, printed on the actual watercolor paper because I didn't feel like wasting time tracing it, and then watercolor right on top of the printed outline of my piece. So that's what I did here. And then I took it, they were talking about pushing values even more so than I had here, so I took it into Photoshop and did that. Yeah, again, this quarter, it was all about pushing values. Apparently, I don't push my values enough, which is fine. That's why you go to school, is to learn that stuff. You know these things. So yeah, that was just the brief of what you had to do. I tend to stick it in the sketchbook so I know what the hell. Later on, if I ever look back, I'm like, why the hell did I draw this? That's why. Then we had a model in class for 1 minute. We had to draw her, and she had clothes on. So we want to draw her with clothes. This was 3 minutes. I'm glad I wrote down the time because I tend to forget. And I'm like, oh man, how long are these? I'm like, these are really good, but is it really good for 3 minutes or is it really good for 1 minute? So yeah, just trying to draw what fabric looks on a person, since we've been drawing a lot of naked people. And usually in the industry, you don't draw naked people unless you're in fine arts. You draw people with clothes on. So understanding anatomy and how it looks underneath clothing was this assignment, or in-class assignment, because we had the model in there and she had different clothing to just put on, and if something's baggy, how does it fit? If something's loose, how does it fold, etc. Bunch of random crap. Oh, I had a friend who was she was having a hard time drawing the fabric on her piece, so it looked like the wind was pushing it. So I was like, well, if I draw it, it would look like something like this, So it helped out a little bit. The next class assignment we had was drawing 10 people, which was the last video you guys saw. So with that said, I'll go ahead and show you the thumbnails, which are totally upside down. Again, I was thinking of like a big crowd. I was thinking roller coaster, people on a roller coaster, a fight going on. I think this was a boxing fight or something. I don't remember. People at a game. This is the winner that ended up going. I had a baseball and people in the stadium with someone swinging the bat, and they're all sitting there, the other players waiting their turn, watching this happening. I believe this is another party. I don't even know. It's a bunch of circles at this point. I don't remember what this one is. But yeah, baseball game. This one was later on, I was like, I needed 2 more thumbnails, and I was running out of ideas. And my husband says, oh, draw red shirts versus stormtroopers, because the stormtroopers, no matter how much they shoot, they always miss, and red shirts always die. So everybody's wondering who would win, in a fight between the red shirts and stormtroopers. Yeah, we're that kind of nerds. So I drew one of them just shooting, and everybody's in there, no one's dying. And then I drew one where the stormtroopers are cheering because they actually shot one, the guy's like winking, like, yeah, everything's good, you know, like just pretend to die and then we can all leave so no one ever wins. So yeah, so that was that idea, and it was pretty fun, but I don't know if I was going to be able to get away with drawing fan art per se, because some professors do not like that. So I was like, yeah, I went with the stadium one. So that's why I kind of like later on was talking about regretting my decision, because I think if I did the Red Search versus Stormtroopers, I would have had a lot more fun. But that's okay. Again, I needed an A. So again, 3 roughs. He usually makes you do 3 roughs. So I did people at a concert. Well, that'd be nice if I just rotated for you, right, guys? 3 people in the concert, and you know, recording their videos and people on their stuff. Yeah, you get the point. Like, this guy's carrying on his shoulders, these girls are carrying their shoulders, watching the concert and so forth. And then these guys like having the painted up for the game, and then there's people in the background faded. And then these where it's, you know, a scene just right on the bleachers, nothing too spectacular. So I did originally print this out so I can fix it up, but then I fixed, her head was like way too big, because literally what I do with the rough is just I blow it up and then put it to the size I want and then go back and tweak it. But I do it with a really low so you can't see the lines as thick, dark. Oh man, brain is starting to shut down. Sorry. So I shrinked her head and fixed it and redraw the details and the seats and such, and just things that were tangents and all that fun jazz. And then this was the color print I ended up taking to class, and I ended up fixing, which you guys saw the difference between this to what was the final. So the last piece in here, it actually goes to my other sketchbook. So let's do the other sketchbook. In 1 second, I'm going to reset it. Okay, guys, I know I was going to show you my next sketchbook, but we are at 22 minutes, and I don't want this to be forever long. So I'm going to go ahead and save the next sketchbook for next week. I hope you guys don't mind. And yeah, so that was my perspective and anatomy, or anatomy perspective. They usually say perspective and anatomy. So yeah, that was my perspective and anatomy sketchbook. I'm going to go ahead and record the next one, but not let you guys stay here forever. So thanks again, guys, for staying to the end.